From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to February 2nd, 2021. James Azar here, your host for today's Practitioner Brief here on the CyberHub podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If you are listening after the fact on your favorite podcast listening platform, one, please make sure to subscribe. Number two, follow us on your favorite social media network and catch us there live where you can actually see my screen and see my face and you can interact and comment live and do all that great stuff. So one, for those watching us live now, thank you so much for tuning in on this lovely, beautiful, wintry Thursday morning. It is Groundhog Day. So we are bound to get 6 more weeks of winter based on the early reports. So 6 more weeks of winter, folks, before we can all just enjoy summer. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends over at KnowBe4 and Wistic. Give them a check out right below in the show notes and help support the companies that support this podcast. Before we get started on today's Practitioner Brief, though, join me for a ceremonial morning cup of coffee, because as security practitioners, we're powered by coffee in the morning, beer in the afternoon, and whiskey at night. And I think that's the order. If you have a different one, then please feel free to let me know what your order is. So I'm enjoying my double espresso. I hope you enjoy your cup of coffee, and we'll get right into that Practitioner Brief here in just a sec. So, few stories to talk about today. Some that are just headlines. We're really not going to dig deep. The one that I've got right in front of our eyes, where ransomware gangs are abusing the VMware ESXi exploits to encrypt virtual hard disks. We're going to get into the risk and the impact and mitigation aspects of this specific vulnerability and a few others. So let's get right into this. Folks, I got a question yesterday. Someone asked me, hey, James, what browser are you using? I'm using the Brave browser, by the way, just so that you guys know, because people are like, hey, what browser is that? I'm like, it's Brave. So there's been, and we've reported on this, 2 different VMware ESXi vulnerabilities, CVE 2019-5544 and CVE 2020-3992, and now these are being abused in the wild, according to a recent report here. At least one major gang is abusing these vulnerabilities in the VMware ESXi product to take over virtual machines that are deployed in enterprise environments and encrypt their virtual hard disks. This has now been confirmed on multiple levels by ZDNet. This report is brought to you, is something that we found on ZDNet, and so just so that you guys know, according to multiple security researchers, there are evidence that suggests that the attacks on the VMware, which is a hypervisor solution that allows for multiple virtual machines, essentially to share one hard drive storage. Both bugs impacts the SLP, which is the service location protocol. And so the impact of this is VM work that's being stored on one hard drive by multiple people within your organizations could be encrypted. And that could lead to a ransomware attack. The ransomware that's being used for this is, and what they're seeing taken advantage in the wild, is Ransom EXX, which is a gang cyber crime organization that's taken advantage and manipulating this specific thing. And some of these attacks, they are causing massive disruptions. And essentially, since it's one centralized point of data, we've seen this really become a huge challenge for many organizations. Joining us live, Kenneth, good morning. Good morning to yourself, good sir. Thank you for tuning in to this morning's show. So let's talk about the impact of this. So central data, multiple VMs, multiple users sharing one hard drive, that gets encrypted, shuts down all the work. This has also been confirmed on Reddit, Twitter, and also it now appears that other ransomware gangs have caught up to this. So here's the mitigation for this. One, system administrators that do rely on the VMware ESXi to manage the storage. One, there are patches out there, so you should apply them if it's doable, or disable the SLP support and that'll prevent those specific attacks, which is critical. We'll move to another story where Microsoft has tracked a system sending 1 million malware emails a month, and here's what it discovered. So very interesting work here by the Microsoft 365 Defender Threat Intel team. They've dubbed 2 different types of emails that send at least 7 different types of malware. One was called Random U, the other one was called Strange U, simply because of the domain and the domain that was in there. These are work for hire operations that are doing it. They're sending over 1 million of these a month. So these are million targeted attacks against our organizations. The Strange U and Random U infrastructure appear to fill in the service gap that the nefarious disruption created, proving that attackers are highly motivated to quickly adapt to temporary interruptions in their operations. It's targeting machines in the US, Australia, in the UK, in the wholesale distribution, financial services, and healthcare industries. Initially, it was to distribute a commodity malware, but in September, the Drydax and TrickBot operators started using the same infrastructure as well. TrickBot was taken down last October, but reappeared again in January and is much stronger than before, folks. There's been some notable campaigns for this, guys. One of them, which was a Korean spear phishing campaign that delivered backup ransomware, an emergency alert notification, a BLM lure that delivered a TrickBot in June, a Drydax campaign. Microsoft notes that these campaigns are active and still taking place right now within your organizations. And so starting to block the Strange U and the Random U domains or family of domains would be kind of a good thing. Even if the domain is similar, maybe allow anything with strange in the domain or in the subject line, maybe should be taken as spam. So we'll move to our third story of the day here. SolarWinds is back. Congress now wants to put the NSA in the hot seat for an encryption issue, essentially looking at the 2015 supply chain attack against Juniper Networks. 9 congressmen and 10 senators essentially and congressmen are demanding a full account of the NSA designed encryption algorithm, which was compromised in 2015 to maybe have been one of the reasons why SolarWinds was so evasive and effective. Here's the deal. Congress is going to look into SolarWinds. There's an investigation ongoing. I feel like Congress should at least wait and allow the FBI and all the CISA to complete their entire investigation. Allow the dust to settle before you do this. Doing this now only allows our adversaries who we may have not picked up on their attacks to exit without us knowing, and then only to return once the dust settles. It's almost better to allow the dust to settle before we do that. In a letter to NSA Chief General Paul Nakasone, the Democratic lawmakers want the agency to provide a previously undisclosed report about lessons learned. Very, very interesting. But SolarWinds has brought back something very, very interesting. According to a news report over the weekend from the AP, the U.S. court system is now requiring any documents in any court case that are considered confidential or national security to be paper filed and no longer electronically filed. That's a huge impact on court operations, according to a lot of attorneys who would just wrap up their response and attach all these different documents in an electronic filing. They can use their filings they can still file electronically, but any documents that are considered to have national security implications or considered to be top secret must be hand delivered to the courthouse in an era of COVID. So this is a story by talking about trial lawyer Robert Fisher, who is defending an MIT scientist who's been charged with helping the Chinese Communist Party and providing them with data. That's it for our practitioner brief today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in live here. You can always comment and ask questions while we do this. Thank you for all. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, folks, enjoy the rest of your day. Mask up, social distance, get out, do something. Don't just stay at home. Even take a walk. That should help your mental health just a little bit. Tonight, 7 p.m., The Other Side of Cyber with the awesome Jacqueline Jane. We're going to be talking about cyberbullying tonight. So if you're a parent or if you care at all about cyberbullying, you should definitely tune in 7 p.m. Eastern time for the people who are watching us in Australia and Asia Pacific. That's 11 a.m. Sydney time on Wednesday morning. You should tune in to that. It's going to be a very, very interesting podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about Chloe's Law. And if you're unfamiliar with that, you should go check out 60 Minutes Australia, one of my top-down favorite TV programs about cyberbullying that led to the suicide of a teenager and the laws that are now being taken. But we want to talk about it a little bit more from the idea of what is cyberbullying and how do we as parents pick up on it. So you'll definitely want to tune in to that and let your friends and family know about it. And then tomorrow, 9 a.m., again, I'll be back with the Practitioner Brief. Until then, folks, thanks so much for tuning in and stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.